Live from Littleborough and Rotherham, we give you two Revs. Good afternoon. Hello, Reverend Tony.
Hello, we're here. We're here.
Eventually, finally, and all of that. Welcome, one and all. I can see the conversation and the joy beaming from the chat box already, Tony.
Yes, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. I was hiding behind my bottle, so I'll just move that over the other way.
Yeah,
I'm thinking that looks odd, and I'm looking at it through a plastic bottle.
We all do these things. Yes.
Well,
Chief, how are you and how have you been?
I'm very well, thank you. We've been really busy talking to people about all things LGBTQ with the Rainbow Project and meeting different people. And the nails are fine, Linda. Thank you very much. The ones Michael did for me.
Yes.
So yeah, it's been enlightening. I mean, we had a brief discussion about one of the parents, and it was a bit. Yeah, now you can get your head around it. You can understand these things, but the other parents were absolutely lovely, and it's been really uplifting to see people from. And interestingly enough, we ended up talking about the colour, because they are Christian. Dad's a minister. They used to have a little church in their own house and things, and all they wanted to talk about was love yourself, love other people, and be nice.
Yes.
That's their philosophy. And it was like, wow. So that was really nice. But no, other than that, it's been good. It's been good.
Good. And I can see the comments coming, and we will say hello to everyone in a minute, because we've got some comments of our own to come back with, I'm sure. But yes, and of course, last night I served a long way from home. Down in Stanway, and it was the Linda Oldham Spiritual Community Centre. It was their last ever service. So we did stream it, and although it's always hard to see any centre close, it was for positive means, because Linda is obviously Linda Rose is moved up to where we live in Littleport, and she's building a sanctuary, literally building a sanctuary. So it is a new direction for her work. But there was there'd got to have been about 70 people there last night. It was stunning. To see the spirituality and the growth that comes from people coming together. And it was just an amazing time. And of course, young Daryl, doing his ministry training, was chairing the service in my stead with Tony and Eunice and all of the wonderful people there serving the community at large as well. Showing that it's not a one-man band, that it really is a group effort, and it was brilliant to see.
Wonderful, isn't it? It's wonderful when you see a congregation and a community coming together like that yeah, it's just brilliant.
In actual fact, I had some personal strifes and difficulties over the last couple of weeks and months. And a couple of them, Linda being one of them and Mandy being another, and I know that they were joined in spirit by everybody else. They'd turned around and said, look, if you need to take a break, we'll keep it going for you, but you will be coming back. And it was like, oh, that's so sweet, but it is your church, so but it didn't come to that.
No.
And it's things like this community as well, chatting away like we do.
I'm just scrolling back to try and start saying hello to people, and it's like I've got to go a long way back.
And of course, first out of the box, quicker than I could press the button, was the Daniel Carlton. Evening, one and all. Hello to you. Some random bloke there took him rubbish. There we go.
Kaza, hello.
In the house. And Dawny, who also came to see me last night as well, who lives closer to there than does us, but still manages to come to Little. So good afternoon to you too.
Yeah. Hi, Daryl.
And
good evening to you as well.
That is, in fact, the Daryl who chaired in my absence last night as well.
Kept it going for you.
And then, of course, there's Mother.
Yes. Hi, Linda. Why on while Wi-Fi is good. Yeah, we're having a few issues as well. I think it's down to the weather. It keeps jittering and juddering, and so fingers crossed. I'm hoping we will stay aboard,
stay afloat, stay transmitting.
And can I just say thank you to Pauline Cole for my lovely rainbow necklace?
That does look amazing, actually.
It's cool, and she made a bracelet as well.
Wow,
yeah, she's very clever. So I'm sorted for Pride tomorrow.
Absolutely,
Jen. I'm well. Nick looks well. Michael behind here has a poorly finger, but he's okay other than that.
Yes. So good to see you, Jen. Facebook user. Oh, how sweet. We don't know who you are. You might have to let us know, but
yes,
it's good to see you too. And Karen is Dawney's in the house as well, and asking after, of course, Michael. Joanne made it on time.
Yay!
Love you, Joanne. I have to say, I didn't get home until 2:00 last night. I'm driving for about 4 hours, and I did have a very long lay-in this morning. I've only just seen your message. Yes, and I will be replying to you after the show. So I haven't lost you. I will reply to you. But hello, darling. And there he is, the boy.
Yes. The comments aren't coming through from my feed this week, which is really odd, because I've got my Facebook open on my phone down here, and they're not showing up on here. So I will do a couple of hellos before.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah. I don't know what's going on there.
Leslie Palmer, Tina Gray, Daniela, Jeannie. We love Jean. 13 days, Jean, till we're in Little Port.
I know. Exciting.
Julie Dallison, I hope you're all right, my darling. She's just had surgery.
Oh, bless her.
Andrew Mather, Tina Gray. Yep, the nails are fabulous. Thank you, Michael, for doing them for me. And Mario, I hope you're well, Mario. You're still in my healing book, matey.
Bless you. And Julie Caswell as well, Facebook user. So I don't know what's going on. Oh, and there's Tony and Eunice as well. Hi guys, thanks for last night as well. So yes, it was as Dawney says, it was a wonderful send off for a great new adventure last night at church. For all those that are not getting their messages through, and good to see you too, Paul, my man, good to see you too. For those that aren't getting their messages through, that are coming on the other ones, there is the combined forces of the Tony and the Nick running across. I must have been psychic because I had that running from the very beginning, didn't I?
You did.
Facebook.com/groups/2 Revs. Just on the off chance that Tony doesn't get to bring up your, I know he will keep an eye and reference them for us. But if you want to, as Tony would say, bob along to that particular page, the likelihood of getting your comments up on the main screen for us both to see without being in Facebook will help. But it just seems rather strange that that's not working, because it normally does.
Worked every week, and we can tell where they're coming from because it comes up with a link, like a chain link on the thing. So it's really odd, and it's connected. I can see that my feeds are connected at the top of the screen. It's just really weird. So very sorry that it's not working correctly today, but Julie Dallison says she's doing really well after her surgeries, and Michael's just telling Daniel that his finger has holes in it where they didn't previously exist. But that's what you get for trying to put your hand between two doggies who are having a disagreement.
Indeed. Bless him.
Linda, Bar's put on the hall windows already for when we get there. That's not good.
She is in a funny mood today, I will say. Thank you, David. David Hale. There's been issues with Facebook for a while when it comes to the comments. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
And of course, David, I'm looking forward to seeing you in Littleport soon. Because he will be coming along on the 9th of September. It's not a Littleport thing per se. It's going to be at Littleport, but it's for SPTV. So
cool.
I'm looking very much forward to that, mate.
Exciting.
You know, it's only like a couple of months since we were first talking about, you know, how we used to wander in, shall we say, mutual circles in good old Cambridge of Shire, and now he's coming back to Littleport. So absolutely. Oh no, Dawny. Oh no, I'd only just got that out of my head as well. We had an earworm on the way home last night.
Yeah.
That was a real earworm for Mum last night on the way home. And Dawny's just brought it back up. And, you know, it's really wonderful. You remember when we first physically met after about 2 or 3 years of talking to each other?
Yes. In the car park of was it the Swan?
The Swan. In the car park of the Swan. It's like, we've never actually met, have we? But it didn't feel like it.
No, absolutely not. It was lovely.
One of my circle members turned up last night because it's once again closer to her, the lovely Jane, and she came to the church, and we stood there talking for a minute, and I just turned around and I couldn't help myself. I was like, we've never actually properly met before, have we? In the flesh? No.
No.
And that is that's the wonderful thing about these online communities, that you do feel more connected than you actually would do if it was letters or just posts. The talking online and the sharing space, as a phrase that someone I know, it's Maglenda. She uses that phrase, sharing space. She's from Australia. And she is actually going to be in Littleport on the 9th of September as well. So
wonderful.
You know, she's not coming specifically to come to Littleport, you know. She will be in Stansted that week, but
okay. But Jean says it was lovely meeting you that time, Nick.
It was
showing on the screen. So
please do. Chip them in, because I'd like to hear them. It really was really, really great. And again, it was the same with Jean. We'd been talking for so long, and then there she was.
Yeah, but stood in front of you.
Absolutely, bold as brass and twice as shiny. So everyone, both on Tony's pages so that he can see them, and on the pages that are of the preset definition, get your questions in. What do you want to talk about? What would you like to discuss? It's your show.
Absolutely.
So lead the conversation, my friends. If it's on one of the main pages, obviously the YouTube because I would imagine it'd probably feed in through through YouTube if it's a Facebook issue, but certainly Tony will read his out as well.
Question from Tim's just popped up there.
Tim said hello. Yes, Tim, hello.
Yes, Tim.
Do you think of the spirit world would ever live?
I'm struggling with that.
I'm not quite sure what you mean by that, Chief. If you could perhaps expand on that. It's been a very long couple of days, so I am a bit lost. But yeah, just I will star it to remind me to check that you're still there. Predictive text.
Now that makes sense.
Now it makes all the sense in the world. Absolutely. Just bookmarking that one for an emo. From my perspective, it's possible. I don't think that there is a deliberate deception involved. It depends what you mean and what you would discuss by lie. There are times in our lives where we do have to bend the truth somewhat in order to help people with a concept. And I'm talking about really, really tiny feather-like lies rather than any kind of substantial ones. And certainly on a materialistic, informative, or, you know, a level of development, I do not believe that spirit would lie in the sense of those that you have earned trust with and held space with. They would always be honest to a fault. I do know that there are lesser entities in the world that are of a negative nature that do nothing but even those would use the truth when, you know, frankly, it suits. But Tim's given us an example, and we can go directly with that one.
Very good example.
Let's say little Johnny has Uncle Billy, and in the 1970s, when it was all taboo, Uncle Billy dies because of HIV. The family tell little Johnny died of cancer, and years later, John is in spiritualist church. Uncle Bill has to lie to little Johnny to recognize who he is. That's a very interesting. I think that would fall under the realms of the little white lie in relation to facilitate something important like identification. However, I would also throw my conditional on that it is quite likely that Uncle Billy quite likely would lead him down to a path of discovery and truth, because I've seen it so many times in a message, watching various different mediums work. They'll say, I've got this, I've got this, I've got this, I've got this, I've got this. Oh, yes, 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 yes. Oh, yes, 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 yes. I've got this, I've got this, I've got this. Now, when it comes to how he passed, he is giving me this kind of cancerous condition, or at least the feeling of it. Oh, yes, he died of cancer. Well, actually, I'm not feeling 100%. There's something missing. There's something missing. Perhaps you can investigate, because although they will make use of that lie, because it would fall more, from my perspective, into the realms of a memory link. Rather than a truth or deception from spirit. Certainly in that example, spirit aren't the ones who've told the lie, humans have. And they would have to work with that information in order to facilitate a revelation of truth. And the amount of times I've seen people say, oh no, absolutely not, and then come back a week later and say, oh, can you get in touch with that medium for me, because I just found out something I didn't know. And I've learned stuff about my own family that I didn't know until after a message from spirit. So I think that they would make use of that and it would fall under the realm of a memory link rather than a truth or falsehood, because that's what that person's been conditioned to believe. As it goes on other forms of deceptions, I don't think any spirit that is working in love and light would be deceptive to a level of creating that lie. They might use it to facilitate the discovery of truth, but certainly they would use that to help develop that. Your thoughts, Tony, and then we've got a lovely comment from David there as well.
What he said. I've got nothing to add. Absolutely nothing, except a comment from somebody called Michael, who says, no, it wasn't just taboo, it was very poor bigotry.
And absolutely.
But that's a whole other.
But of course, we can use words that are designed to be polite. Now, but then I know Michael. He's honest to a fault, and who has a problem with that suffers. David Hale says the only type of porcupine spirit have said to me is to protect their loved ones here. For example, although they passed in a painful way, which their loved ones were aware of, they have come through. Yeah, absolutely. So toning down the evidence rather than, I totally agree with you, David. That's a very good point, actually.
Tim's next point.
What about a discarnate spirit's perception, for example? Husband says, I was a loving husband. Yes. Now, I've had...
That's a difference of opinion rather than a porky. Because I've had that a couple of times, actually, where it's been, we had a lovely time at and the recipient's gone, that was bloody awful.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Christmas blooper reel, everybody. First for the day goes to Tony.
But they do, and it was a rubbish time. Didn't enjoy that at all, and the spirit's going, oh, I thought we had a nice time.
Yeah, and there is that element of self-deception, isn't there?
Yeah,
it's what someone believes, and there is the other extreme of the spectrum, and I had that a couple of weeks ago. Actually, this bloke was absolutely convinced that he was the next best thing since sliced bread, and it sounded too good to be true. And even the look on the face when he was describing himself of the recipient, there was this hint of a grin, but also this "don't push me, you what's it," and they do. At the end of the day, we and I had this conversation today in a one-to-one development workshop. Spirit have to remember what they were like in order to describe themselves. They aren't wandering around looking like translucent versions of our earthly selves. They have to project that image onto our mediumistic senses in order for us to relay it. And the same can be said for personality. If they remember themselves in rose-tinted spectacles, what I will say, with good development and practice and training, a medium can usually tell the difference between self-deception and absolute gospel. And I've seen some really, really good mediums say, now he's telling me that he was very, very sweet and innocent, but I get there's an undertone of something not quite ringing true there. And, so it is the responsibility of the medium to work with their guides and helpers. Even as a Christian spiritualist, I don't get on very well with everything that St. Paul wrote, even though he does take the rap for some things that he didn't say. But his words were, test the spirit. And we as mediums have a responsibility, I believe, to test the spirit and validate and double check through the means and processes of our guides and helpers to actually make sure that what we're being told is a truthful thing rather than a deception. And so it does rest a little bit on us to make sure that we're double checking.
Absolutely. I've the amount of Adonises that have come through, I was ripped and I was fit and I was, Karen Kazar has put a request in. We need an uncensored Zoom to Revs, please, gents.
I'm not so sure about that.
No.
Remember, be careful what you wish for. But that's an interesting one. It's funny, Kaz has dropped off.
She's switched from YouTube to Facebook, but she must have picked up my feed rather than one of the ones that are streaming.
Because YouTube was working I think yours is actually working as well, to be fair, because YouTube's a different Dewberry, but I know she jumps. But I hope that answers the kind of direction you were at. Really, really interesting point, and it's a really important one that we don't talk about enough, the riskier side of this way of life and where things need to be checked and we need to take a bit of responsibility. That seems to have been very much the phrase of the week, taking responsibility for one's actions, and we should as mediums.
That's the thing, isn't it? It's a lot about the responsibility of the spirit to give accurate and precise information, the medium to double check with their guides that everything that is coming through is right, and that it's not going to cause harm or anything to the recipient, but also the recipient's got right responsibility as well, because I've had many a conversation with people on both sides, and it's been very much the recipient sat there going, no, I can't take that, I don't know, and the spirit's going, yeah, why are they saying they don't know me when, this is right? And then you see them with another medium a few weeks later, and it's like, oh yes, to the information you were giving.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes deliberate and sometimes not, but there is that responsibility, because it can cause a bit of upset with the spirit side when it's like, but I'm telling you this is right. And always check if my mother-in-law gives me a message.
Yes. And here's a thing, that's a very valid point, because up until now, my main focus was on whether the deception is coming from spirit, because, to be fair, that's what the question was. But you're absolutely right. There are two other places for that information to be deceivable and skewed, and that is, number one, the medium, and number two, the recipient. And I've done it myself, like you were saying, Tony. I've given information to a member of the congregation, and they've, say for example, I've said, you would understand a grandfather figure who was quite short and a little bit grumpy. Oh, no, not at all. And I would then say, okay, so would you understand that your dad's dad is in the world of spirit? Oh yes, absolutely. Would you understand that he had mood swings and could be a little bit grumpy sometimes? Oh yes. And so you just change the way so it can be that the recipient isn't quite taking it all on board, or you're not relaying it in a way that's understandable. Boom. Boom. I agree with you, Tony. There has to be responsibility by the medium, which brings me to the next question to point in medium's development. Are they ready to go public? Thank you, Tim. Amen to that. That is the number one issue that is rummaging and wreaking its havoc through this way of life so prevalently right now. It always has to an extent, but I think it's getting worse a little bit now. There are mediums that are out working on the platform, giving private messages, that are not yet ready. And there are twofold risk to this: the damaging of the information and the damaging the way of life, but also the damage to them when they have been told, oh, go and it can destroy a medium by starting too early when they're not ready.
I was asked to accompany somebody on the platform for her first service. The person who had trained her and brought her through had encouraged her to take this booking. And because he wasn't particularly local to me and the church was, she said, would I go up with her? Awful to watch. And that girl's never been back on platform.
Yeah.
Never been back on platform. So yes, I understand that. I've brought, like, on when I come to Littleport, Nicola's coming with Jean and myself, and if it's all right with everybody in church, Nicola will sit, and if she gets anything, she'll give it off and things. But Jean and I hope, fingers crossed, we do things in the right way and only put people forward when they're ready. We'll bring them to services with us, and then we'll let them take more of a lead in the service, and then we'll start stepping back, and then they're ready. But In case I forget, remind me to pick up Michael's point. He's just put something in that just it's not on the chat line, but I'm going to forget if I don't. But yeah, the thing about there's twofold to the point you made, Nick. I agree. A medium going up too early on a church is bad, but at least there's a committee there. There's a chairperson there to tame them if they go too far. If they're doing one-to-one sit-ins, that's a whole different beast.
Yeah, there's no safeguard protections or any.
Nope, not at all.
Back, is there?
Anything can be said which could wreak havoc with somebody.
Yeah.
In their own life, and it's bad. It's bad.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I get it. Everybody wants to do it. Saying that, I never wanted to be on platform. I wanted to be a healer.
Yes.
Spirit had different ideas, and Spirit get what they want 9 times out of 10. But yeah, it's good points there, Tim. Absolutely good points. Very insightful. Michael just picked up on the point of who was it? David's point about protecting people, and Michael said the problem is that some lies are told to avoid perceived hurt. That may delay and magnify it for some later point.
Yeah, that's true. It's true.
And I just thought, wow, yeah.
He has been paying attention, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's been reading. He's been, yeah.
Speak the Michael's name, he shall appear.
Yeah, absolutely. There was somebody knocking on the door.
I see. But yeah, I would also add to your wonderful point there, about the safeguards. And it can be dependent on whether the churches know, and then you can make provisions to actually help facilitate that development by doing exactly putting them on the platform. For example, I know there are a lot of people in this way of life right now who scoff at the idea of fledglings evenings. I don't know why, because they are amazing. They are the opportunity to not take a full service, but with like-minded and in the same experience level bracket, go out and have a go, 1, maybe 2 messages each, and get that experience. But what you're doing is measuring the expectations of those in the congregation. Like, look, this is their first time. Be nice, will you? Just be gentle with them. Don't lie to them. If it's a no, it's a no. Please be honest. But you measure the expectations of someone when you're saying this is a fledglings evening. People will be more forgiving of an occasional mistranslated piece of information. So I think things like fledglings evenings are invaluable. Definitely going out when you're developing, giving messages to people, but those that you know and trust, or have had a conversation with. Look, I'm learning. Can I practice on you? It's how we measure that situation that makes the difference. Because there's been situations where we've had mediums come and serve us who have been really, really good, but have been really nervous, unsure, and that's diminished their impact on the congregation. And then you're talking afterwards, well, this is only my 2nd time on the platform on my own. And if people know that, they will be forgiving of that, like the quiet voice or the slight nervousness, because they know the reason why. And it's about measuring that development. Whether they are ready or not to go on the platform should be the remit of a mutual decision between Spirit, their mentor, and the individual.
That's answered a question that popped up on my feed from Mario, who said,
"Hello, Mario.
Totally agree with you both. When do you know you're ready, though?"
Yeah.
There you go. And Lisa Hunt, I did a platform once and it scared me. I'm better doing one-to-ones. Resting at the moment as there's been big changes in my life. Followed up with, oh, should I not do readings anymore? Then I'm worried now. I've never had anyone complain. They've always seemed really good. You'll know, Lisa, if Spirit wouldn't
allow it.
Yes, that's the word I'm looking for. I was just trying to read Michael's question about, point. If someone was a inveterate liar, why would there be assumption they would change in spirit?
Absolutely. Completely agree there. We don't change that much when we pass the spirit. You know, we have our things to learn, but learning takes time.
It does.
Totally agree. But yeah, Lisa, you know, you've developed to work one-to-one and you've grown into that role. What I'm talking about is more people who haven't had that practice and that experience going out and not measuring those experiences. And you know what? If your development onto the platform had have been maybe measured in the way I'm describing, you might be doing both. Me, I'm actually the opposite way round. I would spend my nights on the platform, prancing up and down the platform. You know, people get, he moves too much. But I love to prance up and down the platform because that's where I developed. That's predominantly where my development took place. So it's like going home for me. I'd much rather work, you know, up and down the platform, you know, either throwing it out or going directly to the person. And it's really, really important that you just keep plowing on and measuring. And if the measurement comes from the responses you get of yes, no, or don't know. And if you're getting yeses and people are coming back to you, you're in the right place, sweetie. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And she's just put on, I've been seeing and hearing since hang on, another one's just came through. Since I was 3 and have inherited the gift from other women in my family, it's a strong gift. Absolutely. Absolutely. And before I just look at Tim's question, Daniel's just put, hang on, it says see more at the bottom. Sorry for flipping between screens. No, I just want to include as many people as possible.
Absolutely.
If spirit came through saying that a loved one, Daniel, I've heard this in churches. Here we go, Nick. I know what you're going to say about this one. If a spirit came through saying that a loved one was going to die soon with serious illness, they thought wasn't serious, how would you give the reading, if you get what I'm asking? I know exactly what you're asking. Yes. Spirit, for my 2 penneth, spirit would never say that. They would always say we're aware of an illness, we're supporting, we're healing from where we are, doing everything we can. I have heard people say, yes, but your mum's going to be dead within the next 3 weeks through cancer. I've heard that off a platform, Nick.
Yeah.
The chairperson did nothing. But that's the different thing. And even if, Daniel, spirit gave me that information, I don't think spirit would know that. They would know that the person was ill. There's only one person who would know the exact point of that passing, and that's the divine. Anyway, even if they gave me that person's going to be dead within 3 months, it would never come out of my mouth. Ever, 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 ever. And that's just my personal ethic. If other mediums get that information and choose to share it, that's between them and spirit. But I've never, Tim, I've never been given it. Never. No. I've been given illness, and that it's a serious illness. That's it. That's all I've been given. That this person has a serious illness, the family are aware, and, you know, healing is coming in bucket loads from the world of spirit to try and help support that person. Now, I'm sure the person that gave that information off a rostrum in a church has learned and is the exception rather than the rule. But I know any centre church I was at, if that came out of a medium's mouth, I would pull them off the platform.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I
And
would stop the service there and then and say, I'm really sorry, but that's not acceptable.
And unfortunately, once again, it falls under the remit of, if it's in private, who's going to deal with it?
Exactly.
I have to admit, the first time this cherub-like, well, it was more, not so cherub-like. The first time this cherub-like face was ever on a screen, I went with Lynn to the Kilroy show in around 2001. I was 10 stone heavier, and I wore this really bright blue shirt that made me look like a peach sticking out of a, blue thing. It was about that. And the example, they had put me next to someone who had been told that. And this was, 24 years ago. So it is an ongoing thing, and it is an ongoing issue that does happen, unfortunately, a lot more than it should. Once is bad enough, in my view. But the example I gave is this. If I will in a second. I'll get through this first, and then I'll read.
I sorry, it just caught my eye on my screen, and I was like, "Oh my Lord!"
If Spirit were to give somebody that, the example I would give is this: you have a couple of sitters come to sit with you for a message, and they are in their 60s, and Spirit are mentioning something about someone's about to pass. Do you tell them or don't you? Well, say, for example, that those two are about to go on a 3-month world cruise, and you're going to see that in 6 months, one of them will be gone. Do you tell them or you do not? Do you not? You do not, because you will have wrecked the best 3 months worth of memories of their life. It is horrendous. It is disgusting. It is diabolical. And it is something that I feel deeply strong about. We have a responsibility to help people, not harm them. And by passing on information like that, it is diabolical. Now, if the person is aware of the situation, there is a difference. Bringing you, but you don't go out and just say, "Oh, you're going to be gone soon." It's like it will come through in a way if you work with your guides and are accomplished in any small way about helping people. You will say things like, as you said, but then take it a step further. I can see there's a lot of difficulty. I can see there's a lot of heartache. The Spirit are trying to help you. They are here supporting you. They're watching over there. You do not say, but they know you're going to be dead. So we are here to serve people, not ourselves, our egos, our pockets. We are here to give guidance and strength and help and support, and saying trite like that is out of order of the highest level. And I cannot comprehend that people would think it's appropriate unless the person is aware of it, and then you'd still not come out completely and say it.
I was just going to say, even if the person knows they've got stage 4 cancer, like you said, Nick, healing and help is on the way from Spirit for the troubles you're going through at the moment, for the condition you're suffering with. It's nobody in that church's business what they've got. Just a couple of quick points. Michael says, this all makes them either God, a would-be murderer, or a narcissistic complex. And then Tina Gray said she was told the exact day and time her father would die on. That day and time has gone, and Dad's still here. That's why I did the can you imagine hanging out like somebody in the Joanne Lewis about I've heard somebody say that. Imagine having to hang on to that, because I could not pass that. What did the medium tell you today at church, son? I can't tell you, Dad, because it's bad enough I'm going to have to hang on to this without you having to hang on with it.
Exactly.
It's awful. Absolutely awful. And Kazza just said, yes, Nick.
So there are certain things that I will be gentle and sweet and polite about, but there are some things that really just get my gut, and it makes our way of life look like we are obsessed with death. We are. The first thing I learned about spiritualism is that we are not obsessed with death. We are obsessed with life and the living of it, and we should encourage that side of it. And things like this, like for instance, that Joanne's comment, David said a lady once came to me telling that another medium had told her that her granddad was going to die in 4 months' time, and she's hanging on to that worry for 4 months, dreading every day, and he didn't. And that is the thing. When I was making that statement about the cruise, that was the example I used 24 years ago, and I still use it now. The guy who was sitting next to me was the subject of the message that the woman sitting next to him, which was his mother, was told he would be dead in 6 months' time and he was about to be shipped off to Iraq. Well, he sat next to me 3 years later. We are not God. And things can change. I am tired of people using the waypoints and destiny that Spirit put before us to use it that things are an absolute. There are no absolutes in Spirit. There are options, there are waypoints, yes, but whether we take them or not, whether we use them or not, whether we grow from them or not is our choice. And I think the world needs to take a little bit more responsibility for its actions and behaviors, especially when you have a beautiful gift that is designed to help and support and guide, and then it's turned sour by people just wanting a showboat, really. And that's half the time what it is.
It is, and absolutely.
I can't stand it. I really can't. Sorry,
look how clever I am. I can tell you da 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 da, and it's not, absolutely not. Lisa Hunt says we have a duty of care towards people, and I will follow that up with Lisa. And I've said it on here before. I know I have, and I say it in churches a lot. Everything we do in spiritualism and mediumship is healing. It shouldn't cause pain. It shouldn't cause hurt. It should heal. And it's wrong that people think, oh, it's fine, it's entertainment, and it'll make people take a deep intake of breath. It's not entertainment. It's not funny. It ain't big. It ain't clever. Pack it in.
Yeah. Whilst mediumship should be entertaining, it is certainly not for entertainment purposes only. It's that whole law exists so that TV shows can fake it. That's why it exists. It existed so that organizations could fake evidence on TV shows. That was where that phrase came from. It's got no place in any religious way of life. The UK government does not legislate on matters of conscience. Spiritualism is a matter of conscience. I do get on my high horse. I do get wound up and I do get shirty about it. But this is the thing that runs within my soul and within my DNA. And I know it does for so many people. And I will fight to my passing breath and beyond for people to have that defended.
Absolutely.
And not make a mockery of it. Sorry, I'll chill it back down a bit. But Jane backs it up a bit with their I was told my dad would die in August. It would be painful. He lived until the following July. Eunice. Now this is where it's done in a different way. My mum once got a message that Spirit would be celebrating at the time of daffodils. My dad passed in the spring. That is a different way of putting it that is open enough to not make you worry and fear. And again, Tim says, I had the reason to say in the past from the platform that the spirit world is telling me about somebody in the autumn of their life, but then I would go on to say that autumn can be a very long season.
Beautiful.
Absolutely well said. And Jane, thank you. I'm glad it didn't wind up.
Kaz sort of expands it a little bit on my feed. She says, it boils my wee-wee when information is given by a medium that should not, in capital letters, be shared. Family members would not be able to live their lives to the fullest knowing that news. Absolutely.
Hear.
And then Michael says it debases it to a tea towel on the head, curtain rings through the ears, end of pure tomfoolery. And Karen says And it's mediumship that make the good mediums look bad, and why there are so many skeptical people who don't believe in our work.
Indeed. Absolutely. Here. On a catch up note, I did star this because it was a very good comment, and I wanted to come back on that. I've done several. Jane Morton, I love you. I've done several platforms lately with the lovely Polly and Sam. Absolutely, I totally agree on that. And I still see myself as a fledgling. Despite amazing feedback, I see myself as learning. I think the day we stop learning is the day we should pack up and go away, because it is always about learning. It is always about development. And, you know, I'm very self-critical of my work. I will be honest with you. I'm always, you know, analysing, perhaps over-analysing. I can be, perhaps I've been told, a little hard on myself. But my point is that if we constantly try and evolve our work and see ourselves as the eternal student, we will continue to grow and be better and help people more, because each time we progressively work to do a better job. That is the way we should be, all of us. And I know that all good mediums are like that, because you see that constant growth. You know, I have you know, a circuit of mediums that come through Littleport, and each time they come, you know, it's like, oh wow, they really have been sitting and practicing, because you can tell. But there are those that decide, oh, I'm brilliant, I'm great, I am. Oh, look at me, and the conversation becomes about them and their work. And it's really important. It's really important, you know, that growth. So I agree with you totally. We should fledge our way through life. I'm surprised they had a conversation with you once. I say what I do and they are gone.
Joanne's
comment. Yes. Joanne, I had an indignant Jehovah's Witness who was scoffing my belief, who asked me, when is he going to die? I told him that even if I knew, I wouldn't tell him, as I wouldn't be for the best and the highest good. Joanne, I absolutely love that. Well done, my doll. Well done. And I'm surprised they had a conversation with you once you said it. You know, I have to admit, if you don't mind, just to bring a little bit of humor back into things. I was once getting ready on a Thursday to go to church, and of course I wear my dog collar, and two individuals turned up at the door, and they saw the collar and got very excited and asked what denomination I was. And I said, actually, I'm a Christian spiritualist. One of the colors, one of them, the color drained from her face and took a step back as though she was going to catch something. The other one went, oh, tell me more. And I was actually taken back by that, because in my experience, I had not had that kind of conversation with her. And she was very engaging, very interested, very polite. She says, well, and here was where I got hope. She turned around to me whilst the other one was running away, screaming at her friends, basically to get the pitchforks. And it was literally that bad. She turned around and said, well, it's been very interesting talking to you, and I thank you for giving me the time to discuss your beliefs. Obviously, we're never going to see eye to eye on it, but I wish you well. And it was wonderful. It was wonderful. But the other one was getting ready to paint a big white cross on my front porch, you know. But she turned around and said to me, it's been really nice engaging with you about this, but obviously we'll never see eye to eye, but good luck with your work. And you know what? I wished her well with hers, because if more people were like her in that kind of environment, you know, they wouldn't have such a bad reputation. And you know, it's always the extremes that give these groups the reputation. And I had literally two extremes in one visit there. But she, the one that stayed and chatted, she was lovely. David says, I wish more were like her. I totally agree. I totally agree.
Yeah.
Now, do you want to answer Daniel's question about a platform? Because we say that word a lot, and of course there are people watching that don't necessarily know what that is? Because I know I've been yakking today.
Platform, rostrum, or very interchangeable words for the same thing. It's basically for platform, rostrum, read pulpit. It's the front of the church where a medium, or centre where a medium will deliver messages and take the service from. It's a scary place to be the first few times you get up there, and then especially when you get up there the first time by yourself.
Yes,
it's not good. And then Tina Gray says, I'm still learning with Spirit to channel and understand messages. Can you recommend somewhere to develop more, please? I missed that one, sorry.
You're right. You're doing really, really well considering all of the comments are all split up thanks to the from my perspective, I would say you need to investigate who you're going to learn with. There are plenty of options out there. Yes, there are online circles and workshops. There are also churches that run development groups. I would always say it is really useful to come together in a group of people that are of like mind and in the same boat, because then you realize that you're not alone. So that's why I recommend circles. But you've also got to know a little bit about the person who's running it, watch them work, see how they think. Do their attitudes, values, and moods align with yours? And then investigate that option. You know, there are workshops, there are circles in churches, there are workshops and circles online. Some of them are free, some of them are cheap, some of them are extortionate, but we won't talk about that now because I'm trying to be positive again. But, you know, so rule number one, don't throw a lot of money at it. You know, you don't need to. There are great churches out there of all different walks of life and variety. There are independent churches, Christian spiritualist churches, SNU churches. All of these churches, they run developments for the most part in some way, shape or another. And they are run by people who want to help people grow. And I think it's important to investigate the people you're working with and just go for it, but know what you're getting yourself into with the individuals involved first is usually a good tip from me. What are your thoughts, Tony?
Exactly the same. It's find somewhere. Tina says there's nowhere round her. Tina, if you just drop in the comments where you are, my darling, if we might be able to have a bit of a nosy and see if we can find something or something nearish.
And you know what? It can sometimes be really, really odd because the irony is I've got, you know, I run some online circles. I've got a lady from France. I've got a lady from Scotland, Kazar, in the house. You know, she's in Scotland and she's sitting in one of my online circles. And yet I've got somebody who came up to me a couple of weeks ago in the street. Oh, are you still part of the Spiritualist Church? Yeah, we're there every Thursday. It's still advertised everywhere. Oh, I didn't know you were still running. You know, and so you never know. There might be something that you haven't seen for whatever reason that someone nearby you might be able to recommend. But it did make me think about my advertising abilities and, you know, readdress that one, to be fair. You know, and Jane, I appreciate everyone's beliefs and find it interesting listening. We are all unique and have a right to follow what's right for the individual, as long as it is safe and of good intention. Many blessings to you, my love. I completely agree. Agree.
Exactly. But Facebook user, you should come to the homeless shelter I'm living in. The people here are very interested. I've stayed in my room today because there's been no one with questions. Followed up with, thanks to you, I do have most of the answers now.
Hello, Shelley.
Is that who that is?
I think it might be Shelley.
I was going to say, if you tell us who you are and where you are, we may be able to.
Sorry, it's Shelley. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. It was actually the last comment that made me, because it's that tone that Shelley has. Shelley's in circle with Kaza. Yeah, you know what? This is the thing. the circle that we do, and I hope they won't mind me saying this, started out as a development circle, but it's not so much just development of circle, it's development of spiritual understanding and self. And by going through that process, the individuals in that circle, I have seen blossom as individuals, and I am so honored to be part of that process. But they're the ones that have done it. They are the ones that have done it. And this is important. The individual should take credit for their growth, because they have to take responsibility for it at the end of the day. They should take the credit as well.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, Shelley, I know you say thanks to you, or I do. My teeth are nearly going to fall out today. Thanks to you all, I do have most answers. You had quite a few yourself beforehand. I just think that by discussing it with like-minded souls, like on here and on other pages that I know you watch, you found a way of resonating those answers into something that you can share with people. So give yourself a little bit more credit, Sugar.
Absolutely. And it's like a comment earlier about I still consider myself a fledgling.
Jane, yeah.
That's a bit of a term, fledgling. It's one that's bandied about and that everybody uses, but it's developing your innate talent and abilities and things. It's the same with spirituality and the spirit within. It's always growing, it's always developing, it's hungry for knowledge, it wants you to
be the sponge.
It is. It's sponge. It's Tina's in Oxfordshire.
So, Oxfordshire. Oh, I might know of a few people in Oxfordshire.
I will have a look, Tina.
Yeah, there's got to be something in Oxfordshire. On a lighter note, there's got to be.
Go on.
On a lighter note, I like David's question.
I was just coming to that one.
It's the expose of how we do it, kind of thing. David says, "Do you have any rituals to get yourself ready for a platform demo?" Tony, what are yours?
Lots of prayer while driving. Lots of, oh, please don't let me stand there like a muppet, opening and closing my mouth like a goldfish. Because, you know, I've said it before, I'll say it again. If you were an actor, a singer, a performer, you have your set, you have your cues, you have your script, you've got your set list, you know what you're going to do. We stand there with nothing.
Yeah.
And they are now leaving it later and later and later to give me my first link. So it used to be just before I stepped up onto platform, my first link would come in. And then it was during the opening prayer, and then it was during the first hymn, and then it got later and later. And now it's as I stand up, they go, "Oh yeah, we better give you somebody to talk about then." It's just it. So I pray, I ask a lot, I talk to my guides, and then just before we go up on platform, I will go to the loo and say the last prayer in my loo, and then my opening up ritual, if you like, is okay, I'm ready, and that's it. Yeah, that opens the door, and then
indeed. Before I answer from, because I'm a little bit different. Jane, do you know what? I'm the same. I now use words that I don't necessarily like in order to, you know, help facilitate the conversation. I do the same, Jane, to be fair. You know, I use the phrase "an evening of clairvoyance," even though I know that it's going to be clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, and claircognizance. You know, we are in a world in which those terms we do have to kind of make use of terms that we wouldn't necessarily as our own terminology to resonate with people. So I do get you on that. And Mum has just said we don't have hymns at Little Port. We don't.
Yeah, no.
But
I know. Thank goodness. Go on, Nick.
I'm a little bit different to Tony on this one because I usually sleep a lot before a service. In actual fact, yesterday I had 3 hours sleep before I got in the car and drove down. And when Dad used to do the driving, I used to sleep on the way there. I can sleep on an airplane engine. You know, and I have done actually. I've slept through takeoff on the last 5 holidays that me and Nigel have had over the 14 years. And we actually sleep at the end of airports as well sometimes, and I sleep through that too. So I can sleep anywhere, but I usually do have a bit of a snooze. But when I get there, I look around and find a flat wall. I find a wall, a blank wall, and I use and them who sit in circle with me are going to be sick of the sound of this one because they hear it all the time. I will find a blank wall and I'll use a similar style to guided meditation to visualize a door on that wall. And that is where that's where I see spirit come in. So I go and hang around the door and sit there for a minute and see the people come in, and they all go and line up. And occasionally, if not enough have come through, like for instance, a couple of weeks back, I was doing a demo. I'd got through them so quickly that I'd got like another 10-15 minutes. Another one come pelting through the door like an absolute banshee. So I sit there and I visualize a doorway to help facilitate the information coming in that way. And I do use visualizations a lot from that school. So that's pretty much that, and a glass of water. So, you know, I think everyone works differently, don't they?
They do. They do. Absolutely. And Tim,
thank you.
Yeah, it's
in my opinion,
and it's setting intention. Yeah,
absolutely. Everyone has a way of setting that intention. It really and that is a really, really good word that I think we should use more, actually. Intention. It is, intentions are the core of prayers. Intentions are the core of what we do, and when we sit down and say what we can do. I have to say, I love this one. My earlier ritual was psychic socks. I had a really good open platform and just bought these socks, so I had to wear them every time I worked. Laurie, love it. Psychic socks. That
David,
one.
Yes. Intention is everything. Oh, Jane, yes.
Oh, I want that in the Christmas bloopers. It's not a blooper, but I still want it in the Christmas bloopers. That you know, and yeah, I agree with Tony. Intention is everything. Now we had a question on your side from Linda.
Yes. What brought you to your spiritual path? Hers was being dragged to a Quaker church by her sister, apparently.
Wow. And do you know what? There's a church in Bury that actually used to run in a Quaker hall. So Quakers and spiritualists do, you know, get on quite well. So what about you? What was yours?
Mine was, I've always had faith. I've always had a thirst for all things spiritual. And I went to, bye Jane, I went to Church of England church for a long time, and I went 2-3 times a week, and but I've always been aware of spirit, and then my knowledge of spirit and what I was hearing in Church of England church didn't quite gel. So I tried Methodist, I tried Pentecostal, I tried all sorts. But once I started platforms and going around and doing spiritual churches and the spiritualist churches, something still wasn't quite gelling, and it was this. It was the ministry side of it, because I would go to some big branded spiritualist churches and it would be like an exercise in giving messages, and the ministry side of it was missing for me. The philosophies would be very and nothing to do with growth as a person, and so, but once I got this and found Christian spiritualism, it flowed. So that was my journey. And in a nutshell.
In a nutshell, and I know there's more to it than that as well. But similar for me, spiritualism made me feel more complete. It resonated so much better with me. But once again, there was something missing, and whether it's my I wouldn't say it could be my upbringing, because we didn't go to church every Sunday. I wasn't expected to go to church. I certainly was a bit of a rebel in the Christian church school that I went to, but then I loved having a chat with the minister who was attached to the school, and the headmaster would quite often tell me off for the questions I would ask the minister. But he would always turn around and say, actually, let him talk, because they're good questions, because I was asking the obvious stuff that nobody dare ask. But I did have a breakdown when I was a teenager, because I could see things. And my drama teacher actually recommended that I learn about it. And then I found a full-blown spiritualist church in my village, and started taking part and having a look. It's everyone has their own path and will find what resonates with them. And as I know Jane's had to go now, but as Jane said earlier, so long as it's done in love and light and for benefit of each other, we are all part of a great divine cosmic beam, and we should we should all be kind to that thought. I did star a comment up here. I think we've probably got about time for 2 more points, because time is rallying on.
It is.
So I know you've got one in the. I know you've got one in the private chat from your pages that aren't feeding through. This one here, I had a great discussion the other day with the minister, Barry Oates. Long time since I've seen that young man. On the definition of the phrase, I believe that should mean Amen at the end of a prayer. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that half. This is the thing, there are a number of people who have said, it's very masculine based, but it actually isn't, because it's an untranslated word. It means so be it, basically. And there are many different traditions and many different ways of thinking. For example, blessed be, so mote it be, I commit this to the universe. That's what amen actually means. It is not an English word, so it's not based in gender, and it's not actually based in Christianity either. It's based in Judaism. So all of the various different reasons that people don't like it aren't always entirely the full Megillah, for want of another Jewish phrase. It is actually a Jewish way of closing the prayer. It is the words that people from the Jewish tradition would use, and it literally means so be it. I don't actually think it's necessary to use that word. It's once again like fledgling or clairvoyance. It's a word that people recognize, so feel comfortable with it. Some people won't feel comfortable with it because of the same reason. But I think so long as, at the end of the day, if you write a text message to somebody, you open it and sign it however you see fit based on your relationship with that individual. And as ministers, I believe our job is not to tell people what God is or how to talk to God, just help them grow their own understanding of it. So if you would say, oi God, it's Nick, you start with oi God, it's not. And likewise, if you want to end with I'm going to go now, thanks God, then that's how you end it too. I'm not into ritual and tradition for ritual and tradition's sake.
No, it's a bit like some churches do opening prayer, Lord's Prayer. Other churches just do an opening prayer.
Yeah,
it's up to you. It's up to you. Absolutely. And I just sometimes finish my nightly prayers with, right then, good night, God bless. To God. God bless. I mean, why would I ask God to bless himself, themselves, whoever? It's just, but I do. Night, God bless them.
Bless them. Bye. Night.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye. How I had a boss like that. You spent just as long saying goodbye as you did the actual conversation. If you see this, Wendy, yes, I am talking about you, and I loved you for it. Tim follows up with, if we say Amen in the prayer, which I fully agree with it, but more important on what has been said within the prayer. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And once again, it comes back to intentions, doesn't it?
Yeah, it is. And for me, the whole point, Tim, is not how you open a prayer, how you close a prayer. It's that you actually pray.
Yeah.
End of. Yeah. It's just, it's the fact that you actually do it and you talk to God and what is said. That's key.
Absolutely. And you know what you brought up about the Lord's Prayer, and in spite of the fact that Littleport is designated as a Christian spiritualist church, even though all of the members of various different spectrums of religion and philosophy and belief, we don't actually have the Lord's Prayer because I don't like prayers by rote. Because exactly on the same vein as Tim, what comes before and after the intro and closing is the bit that matters. And it has more purpose, more meaning, and more resonance if you speak from the heart rather than using someone else's words. And even if you actually look at the scripture, and I'll never forget, Lynn taught me this one, who was raised a Jew actually, so does have an understanding of the Hebrew language. What was actually said when the prayer was given? It was this conversation actually. How do we pray? And he said, say something like this. So it was never intended to be a prayer by rote. It was a guide, and focus on what's in your heart, basically. And you've got to mean what you say and need what you say and understand what you say. People argue about the contents of the Lord's Prayer when in actual fact, it's what it should mean to you that matters. So I'm very much with you as well, Tim, that, it is important what comes before and after the intro and closing. So I'm with you on that totally as well. Tony. Now,
absolutely, it is. And just a quick one. I think it'll be a quick one. You never know with Daniel's questions.
I know.
Do spiritualists ever see the same spirit in group? I think what it means is, correct me if I'm wrong, Daniel, if you, myself, Jean, and Nicola are all sat together on the day we come to Littleport, could we all see the same spirit?
Yeah, I think that's what you meant too.
That's what I get from it. And if that's what you mean, then yes, because Jean and I have gotten a bit close now and we can actually connect. So we can link to each other's links to spirit, and they'll give Jean some bits and me other bits. And if you ever watch us do our lives, then he says correct. That's exactly what he meant. So it's you can link in and see the same. Like we were at a church with Jean and her stepmom, and we all saw a guy stood at the back of the church with a wooden leg.
Yeah.
So yes, you can, and you can actually work together if you get close enough and you understand how each other work and you're open enough to spirit, then you can link in and gel and get the same link. So
absolutely,
it's a yes from me. Nick, your thoughts?
My thoughts exactly, yes, the same. And yes, Joanne, I have got it pinned, my darling. Yeah, I in actual fact, I can tell a couple of stories based on that. And in actual fact, the name of one of them that's done it was mentioned by Tim earlier, Barry Oates, because I used to be on the East London District Council of the SNU when Barry was president of that. And all of them in that committee knew before I knew who I was working with, because they were mediums. They sat there, they were watching me, they were weighing me up, and they were talking to the individual in question, and then had some, you know, foreknowledge of that individual too. And you know, so when I sit and chair, sometimes I'm a little bit nosy and will link in and see who's about. And it's the amount of times, and it's a development tool as well. It was great because I would sit there and say, okay, so I'm seeing this green background on a dress with some yellow flowers on it. And the next thing, the medium saying, I can see this lovely green dress with wonderful daffodils flowing all over it. And you learn by listening in on the conversations of spirit. Sometimes it can be a greater or lesser extent of connection, as to you might see a little bit more, you might see a little bit less, depending on how closely you're linking. But I even had an experience last night where someone sitting in the congregation obviously had been sitting there talking to my guide, because he sat there. He says, you know, I enjoyed your enthusiasm for your work, but I would say that you need to do this and this and this. And it was so specifically, word for word, the request from my guide as to how to progress my development. And I just couldn't help it. I just sent up a thought and kind of like half looked over my shoulder like I do sometimes. I don't need to. It's just habit. I went, oh, yeah, all right then. And he went, yes, that is who I'm talking about. And, you know, it was so obvious that he had been spending his evening talking to my guide rather than, you know, watch me work. And it's really, really important part of development that if you're going to join a circle, that the medium you're working with has an ability in some way to do that, so that they can help you verify the information that's coming through to you. So absolutely, Daniel, totally with Tony on that one. I fully agree. I really, really do. And so the final one of the day, because it's now coming up to 5:30, and I'm sure you've got tea to cook like me, especially with his Nibs' finger out of commission. Tony, Joanne asks, have you had any experience with the ascension process, awakening? I am in the middle of mentoring someone through it, as I've been through it. What would your most important advice be?
Oh, important advice for me straight off would be trust.
Yes.
Trust your mentor, trust spirit, trust your guides. You may not know who they are. We can be quite lucky. We know who, I know who most of mine are, not all of them, most of them. But it's just trusting that they will guide you to the best place you need to be. Yes. That would be mine. It would just be trust. And don't think you're going mad if things suddenly start feeling a bit weird and change, because as you get comfortable, they start going, all right, yeah, we'll give you this little bit now. Yeah, we'll give you this little bit to deal with now as well. That would be my advice.
Yeah, and I would agree with that, and also add to it, it's different for everyone.
Yes,
and so gentleness and supportiveness for each other. Certainly when it comes to trust, make sure that trust is earned as much as given. But it's different for everyone. So use your experiences as a base, as a template. But don't expect it to go the same way exactly, because some people aren't ready to go through that process yet and might go away and then come back a month later, a year later, 10 years later, you know, even, you know, on a macrocosmical, you know, direction here. our experiences together, Tony. You know, we became very close. We worked together. It wasn't right for you at the time, and you went off and did some more exploring of your own thing. And then later on, when you saw things in a different way, not the same way as me, but saw things in a different way to your previous perspective, you then came back.
Absolutely.
And we
it was about being ready.
More.
Yeah.
It is. And so some people aren't going to be, even though they think they are and want to be, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are for that process. But also it's about finding that perspective and knowing that it is going to be different for each person. Tests. Yeah. When it comes to awakening, anger can hold it back.
Yeah.
Anger can hold it back. And I was a very angry teenager. I even beyond teenage years, that there was a bit of a joke about me when Jean's having to go. So bye, Jean. Love you.
Bye.
See you soon, sweetie pie. You know, hang on, go back to where, there you go. I was a very angry person. In actual fact, in my office, I went through 3 chairs in the space of a year because I would get so angry. I would walk in and just push the chair across the floor with my feet. You know, I'd never put that anger out to the world, but I put it onto inanimate objects. And that was so self-destructive, and it didn't help my development. And so peeling back the onion skins of why people feel like that is not only a test, it's also part of the process. I believe. So, you know, Joe, I hope that helps.
Yes, it's that was a doozy to end on.
And you know what, it's been brilliant, everyone, and I'm sorry that the comments weren't all coming through. Yes. And like I said, it's different for everyone, and learning and development has actually tamed anger issues as well. You know, so it is different for everyone. And we should use our experiences as a base template rather than a script. As Tony said earlier, scripts don't work for us.
No. It's and don't. The other thing, Joanne, I would have to say is, this person will work their own way. Like Nick said, their experiences won't be the same as you, and the way they work won't be the same as you. So if they do things differently, try to be quite open to that and say, yeah, okay, that's how you do it. Have you thought about, but not, oh, that's wrong, don't do it like that. It's very different for everybody, and everybody works differently.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it is now exactly 5:30. Thank you all so much, everyone who's engaged and asked. I'm sorry that the comments weren't feeding through. Hopefully, I will send a message to StreamYard, and hopefully they'll do something about it. You know, if they know, it helps. Really, really, really great that everyone has engaged, has shared their experiences, shared their thoughts, shared their questions. And Tony, as ever, an absolute pleasure to share my afternoon with you. It always is.
And you, sir. It's been brilliant. Loved it.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you all so very, very much. It is now 5:30 and it is time to go and live a little. It's Friday night, so let your hair down, get your nails out, and enjoy yourselves. There you go. I've got a chili con carne to cook before the other half gets home. So it's been really, really wonderful it could be down to me as well, or it could be down to us, or it could be a combination of all of the above. We will play with our bits between now and next Friday to ensure that everyone can see everything.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. It's Friday.
Yeah, it really, really is.
Cracker Jack. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you all so much for your time and your conversation. It is always a pleasure. But for now, it's good night from him.
And it's good night from him. Good night.
Good night and God bless everyone. Thank you all so much. May the peace of the Great Spirit go with you all. Have a wonderful week and we'll see you soon.